Thanks for joining us. Kaylee already read a bit about Resource Central, but if you didn't catch it all, there it is. She is my counterpart in the lawn replacement program. She is a genius behind the scenes, saves us on all the coordination and administrative stuff. And I spend a lot of my summer out in the field managing the folks on our seasonal cruise. I have been with Resource Central for almost 2 years now. Um, and before that, I actually was a participant through my municipality and got my garden in a box kits and could not believe that I just could sign up and remove my grass and get completely compensated gardens. So that blew my mind and probably was my first intro to Resource Central. And then slowly over the years, I have removed more and more grass, and I'm not divorced yet, and it's going great. This season, my husband is hopefully going to love me through converting our underground irrigation system into a above ground situation off of one of our hose spigots. We'll see how that goes. But thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing our interest in conservation and hopefully in lawn removal specifically. We have a lot to share with you. It's kind of a beginner-based seminar today. If you have more in-depth questions or if you are further along on your journey, please feel free to reach out separately and we'll get into it. All right, so starting with a little history. I was very surprised to learn recently that we have been moving water through infrastructure basically since the 1950s in Colorado. I am originally from New York State, so our water history was a little bit longer or older back there or over there. But the fact that we have been having to move water just to use it since the 1950s in Colorado is impressive. We also are the first state to have a designated management office for water. So the use of water, who's using it, how much they're using has been monitored here longer than probably anywhere else in the country. We also started moving Colorado River water in very strategic ways as early as the 1920s. We had to start working with other states very, very long ago to make sure that we could have some sort of sustainability around that. And as I think a lot of us know, if you are from Colorado, for those of you who are not and tuning in from elsewhere, maybe your water situations at your state level and federal level are different, but here in Colorado, it is a never-ending conversation about who gets how much water, when, how. So that's been going on for a long time. And looking forward, I see a lot of continuing challenges and struggles. We have very recently learned that our brand new shiny reservoir just up north is contaminated with uranium. Chimney Hollow Reservoir was slated to open just about now, and that is very much on pause because what was quarried turned out to be contaminated. So we've been doing this for 170 plus years, trying to move water and get water to cities and get water to different irrigation areas. And we're doing it today, and we're still facing significant challenges. So I really think that just goes to show that Resource Central is, I don't want to say job security, but we're on a very long-term mission that doesn't necessarily, have a finish line. This is just a continuous mission that we're on. The Arkansas Valley conduit or pipeline, for those of you who don't know, is another issue in a very different part of our state. That was supposed to be water moving to people who needed it. It was all set, and now there is some political turmoil around that. So we're just going to continue as communities and as a state to be on this journey of responsible water usage. And for me, that started at my house. That started by removing a little bit of my lawn. It spread to my neighbor next door. She was very, very curious, and now she did it. And we just kind of hope that it's a ripple effect. And we hope that as communities and as a state, we can make really good long-term decisions for water conservation. This one, bear with me, it's a little cheesy, but I think the analogy is really good for anyone who is very new to this journey. I like to think of water in a kind of banking analogy. So we have lots of water on Earth, theoretically. The rivers, the reservoirs, the stuff that is above ground, super accessible that we can swim in, is kind of like our cash flow. That's what you want to be using, that's what you want to be spending, that's what you want to see fluctuating in responsible manners. The groundwater and the aquifers, that's the stuff that is below ground, that's the stuff that is harder to see and access. You want to treat that like your savings account. Some states are going to tap into that a lot more. Colorado is very reservoir river based because the stuff below ground takes a lot longer to replenish, just like a savings account. Again, this is maybe more of a Rocky Mountain region thing. Arizona has really, really different aquifer and groundwater setups than we do. But when we're using water generally, we want to be staying in that cash flow area. Spending that cash flow is any and everything from our household showers and doing dishes and doing laundry to watering our lawns and agricultural uses and really large scale outdoor use, as well as just the increasing population. Colorado, for the first time in the decade since I've lived here, is, I believe, gently petering off and dropping in population. But we still have a lot more people than we did, which means we are using a lot more water than we did for a lot more things. The replenishing of our water is getting trickier and trickier, which means our usage needs to become more and more responsible. Precipitation and quite literally watering our lawns does in fact replenish water to a degree. Snowpack and rain is our precipitation. That's our big one, obviously. But the snowpack this year, as we all know, I pulled this morning's chart, that black line at the bottom in the graph to the right. That's our snowpack. It is not great. It is not looking up yet. Maybe end of February and March will be a heavy snow year. But when we already have this little snowpack compared to what we usually do, we need to be planning ahead. So the replenishing of our cash flow this year is not looking terrific. And then we also have our climate change, our larger than usual droughts. While droughts are a natural phenomenon and can be traced thousands of years back through the rings in trees, and we do know that droughts are perfectly natural, these extremely severe ones, less so. And then we also have this really annoying issue of pollution and PFAS in our water and plastics in our water and general wastefulness. People whose sprinkler systems are watering the asphalt or their streets. We can potentially get into irresponsible uses of water through the new technology changes we're seeing in 2026. But replenishing the water that we need is becoming harder and harder. So our water cycle, I think, is getting interrupted. Our snowpack, as we already see as Coloradans, is going to be a topic of conversation for a while. And we need to be making really good conservation decisions for ever. Very, very, very much right now, though. I was going to spend a lot of time on this when I started building these slides a couple of months ago, and then it just kind of happened. So I'll let this one speak for itself. Today it's at least cold out, which I think is nice. But for those who are living in the state, you're seeing it, you're feeling it. We're having a hell of a drought winter, and it's probably going to be a pretty dry summer. Of course, those things can change, but we we're in for it this year. So if you're thinking about doing a project, if you haven't done it yet, if you're not sure, if you want to move forward with outdoor water conservation, there is no better time than right now, this spring, knocking back your water usage. We're very likely going to have around Metro Denver several water usage restrictions. Every municipality varies. I'm up in Broomfield. We've already had some very clear messages go out that say, limit your water usage, use responsibly. That's step one. We'll see what comes next. Where you are could be impacted very differently, but the drought's going to be interesting. Okay, before we dive into it, I think we have several poll questions to see how people are feeling, maybe which way I should lean with conversations. So let's get one of those out.
Just launched, if everybody should be able to see.
So, how confident do you feel in this project? Hopefully, you are here because you are considering some degree of lawn removal or you're interested a little bit at this point. So that's, yeah, just us gauging how hard we need to push you or convince you maybe to get you over the finish line. We'll give that another couple seconds. And if you don't want to answer it, that's perfectly fine too. You can completely ignore it.
Yeah, we've got about 160 out of 250 people so far, so pretty good.
Beautiful. All right, what's that looking like?
If you can't see the poll, it should just be a little pop-up on your screen. It might be hiding behind your window. Jess, you want me to go over some of the responses?
Sure, yeah, let's dive into that and then we'll keep going.
Fantastic. Okay, so it looks like we've got about 14% feeling super, super confident, about 41% feeling somewhat confident, need a little bit more detail, 37% not so confident, interested but really unsure and need some support, and then just about 9% that are looking to learn about options at this point.
Okay. So heavy in the middle,
Heavy in.
somewhat and not so, which are close enough together. I like it. I am no longer a inexperienced novice starter lawn person, but I can tell you that when I started this project by getting a shovel from my shed and walking to my front lawn. I do not recommend that, but that is how much experience and that is how much knowledge I had. And it just, so much of it was learning as I went. So don't quit, stick with it, stick with us. We'll teach you a lot. And then we're always here after, but we'll get to that. But okay, so with all that conservation talk and with me hopefully convincing you that we are in a pickle of a situation with our water usage, especially in this state, we are introducing lawn replacement to you. If you know about us, great. If you know about Resource Central's services specifically, even better. But to introduce you to lawn replacement for anyone who is not so familiar, a Kentucky bluegrass lawn, which is the most common variety of just front lawn, is going to take roughly 10 gallons of water per square foot. Obviously, that's over, a month or a bit of time, but it is so, so, so much water for such a weird chia pet on your front lawn. Like we have grass simply because that's what someone told us to do at some point. The origins of grass go, this is a little kooky, but bear with me, go all the way back to, I think it was probably England. But the more lawn you could just have as your showy, like, look how much time and money I have to just manicure this grass thing instead of it needing to be wheat for agricultural sales and money to be brought in, or instead of some sort of cattle yard to have, if you were so rich that you didn't need to use your land and you could just have grass, that was what people did. It is 2026. We have so many lawns. and we use so few of them. So let's get rid of them. My personal summer water usage was insane. As I said, I am originally from New York State, and we didn't water our lawns. I grew up in a suburban house, huge lawns, and I think we had a sprinkler out once, and then moved here and got to this house and was floored. I thought I had a sprinkler leak. I thought I had like a main line leak. It was alarming how much water it took to make my lawn look kind of green. So from usually about 2 to 3,000 gallons of water usage in the winter per month. My summer usage came through, and the bill was one thing, but just the usage was like to me gross. So that was that. I could not pour fresh potable water into the dirt. If it was gray water, maybe, but our systems, the way they are set up right now, it takes far too much water for far too little payoff for me. Of course, that those numbers are going to be different based on how you irrigate, what lawn you are watering. If you have a shade tree, you're going to need less water than if you have completely exposed lawns. So take all these numbers with a grain of salt, but they are also based in data that we have collected from the beginning of our program. If you do go through our program, or if you have in the past, you will see a water records sign off where we are giving customer reports back to the water partners, and they can pool the water usage, completely anonymous data, but just the numbers over the years since they've participated in our program, and we are watching the conservation happen. So know that these are not made up numbers, know that we are tracking water usage, that the water departments are too, and that we are seeing conservation happen, which is awesome. So the switch from grass to perennial gardens is what we are really motivated to do. It is what our program is rooted in. It is what we suggest people go with. If you don't want to go with perennials, clover or native grass mixes or dog tuff or some sort of low water grass is a good use too. But perennials and native plants are just so much bang for your buck with the benefits, not just water savings, but your ecosystems, your neighborhood beauty. That's our kind of bread and butter there. And with that, or with those changes, we are seeing about 1,000 gallons saved for every 100 square feet removed. Again, of course, what plants you go with, how much area you fill with plants once you remove is going to change it too. Replacing your area with 50% plant material versus 90% plant material is going to change your water usage, but it's significant water savings when you swap the grass out. Personally, selfishly, conservation, of course, is the number one reason to do these things. But my other number one reason is these ecosystems and these flowers and these animals. I talk at the camera, and then I also just like look out at my lawn because I love it so much. I should say my yard now because it's not a lawn. But I have foxes and I have garter snakes and I have arguably too many hummingbirds. It's pretty insane with my salvia. So I just think there are so many benefits. If I haven't sold you yet, let me know. I'll keep talking. Before you do remove your lawn, I do really like to give people just the starter facts, if you will, that the establishment of your new plants and your new setup will take water. You will need to use a bit more water in the first year of perennials compared to the third year. Overall, that should all be less than how much you're using on grass, though. You need to establish those plants well. You need to water and nurture them as they're growing big and strong so that in the years to come, they can be weaned onto less and less water so that their root systems are big, healthy, and expansive to start. And then you can get them down to really low maintenance stuff. The goal is less water, not no water. I'm going to repeat it. Less water, not no water. We want to conserve, we don't want to cut off. We want to make sure that our soil health is still being nurtured. We want to make sure that roots are still acting as, the infrastructure and segues to get water down into the earth. We want to make sure that we are not turning our neighborhoods into heat islands and deserts more than Colorado already is. If you take out all your native or all of your natural habitats, all of your plant life, you are going to bake your home, or your business or wherever you're removing this lawn. You're going to maybe reduce your outdoor water usage, but you're also going to spike your indoor electrical use with air conditioning. So less water. And then, of course, annual seasonal precipitations and ultimately just nature. We are science-based, but it is not necessarily a science, if you will. I think it was 2023, we had a very wet spring. I did not water my plants. They thrived. Last year, we had an extremely wet May and then a very dry wet rest of the summer. So depending on when you plant, depending on how hot it is, nature is going to nature. So just my tidbit there. Okay. I think the horse is dead, but Xeric versus zero is a conversation we have a lot with people who are just joining the movement, joining the journey. We want to landscape with native, with low maintenance, with less or with lower water plants. We do not want to remove them completely. If you take away water, you take away life. That is above ground, that is below ground. It is going to have consequences long and far. We do not want to create heat islands and generally just want ecosystems. We're here for the water savings, but we're also here for the habitats, for the pollinators. Another personal experience I can tell you is that my neighbors cut down a gigantic cottonwood tree, unfortunately, a few years ago. And while the roots have not started to rot yet, because it hasn't been long enough, the tree not pulling water down is causing settling, shifting. The soil has dried out significantly because it's no longer being fed and massaged and dealt with. And when those roots do start to rot, it's going to get a lot worse. But even up until that point, significantly changing moisture levels in soil and below ground will have impacts that you can see, that you can't see. So less water, not no water. Okay. Any good group questions? How we doing on big questions? What do we got? Anything?
Yeah, we've got quite a few questions. A lot you are going to cover. So
Okay.
I'm gonna pause on some of these. Do you have any maybe brief comments on fire-wise landscaping and how fire danger intersects with xeriscaping?
So, yes and no. I can tell you that after the California fires, the LA fires a year and change ago, I was obsessed with reading a lot of those stories, and there are so many that show that the native plants lived, maintained the terrain, and were fine afterwards. That doesn't mean that a house would be, but the general rule is that you want to keep, and your municipality might have clear laws about this. So I would definitely double check depending on where you live, depending on what laws might be in place. There is a perimeter that you want around your house, for sure. There is a very big swing between whether you are in Evergreen or in Broomfield. But ultimately, if I might be jumping the gun here, but if we're getting at something like the Marshall Fire, if we're getting at something like the we've never seen it before, or there is a unstoppable force coming through. This might be more of a personal opinion. I don't think our native plants are going to help much. Trees are a big impact there. We can see that trees that are healthier are able to, let me reverse that. Trees that are unhealthy and are more dead go up like firewood. So if you can keep trees healthy, that's going to do quite a bit. But if we see something come through like we did a couple years ago, it's our salvia plants aren't going to do much there. I don't know if that helps or if that's just kind of a raining on the parade, but
No, I think it's fair. There was a Waterwise Yard Seminar on Firewise landscaping last year. Maybe there's another this year, but there is only so much that you can do.
yeah. I can also tell you that that information is coming through our communities more and more after that tragedy occurred. So, I happen to live in Broomfield. Broomfield is having a community town hall on fire awareness this Friday. So 100,000% recommend reaching out to your towns and seeing if they have certain resources like this or encouraging them to do it. Because if you have interest in it, they should have interest in it, especially something like that. So, okay.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got a ton of questions, but I think let's let you continue and we'll ask them at the end since you're going to cover a lot of these topics.
Cool.
Should we launch the other poll question quick before we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do that. Should have popped
All
up
right.
one.
So we have so many folks who sign up and maybe drop, sign up, and then halfway through the process start asking these questions, or really just don't know how to complete certain pieces. So, what are we feeling challenged with? What is too intimidating? What is something that you are not finding enough information or resources on otherwise, I think is will help us.
We're just about halfway responded, folks. So I'll leave it up for another 10 seconds or so and then I'll close it.
Great. On the front of fire stuff, just because I can ramble. So, uh, something I also learned fairly recently, and this was Colorado-based research, they are seeing aspens in the mountains work as natural fire breaks and fire barriers because as aspens grow, they naturally shed their lower branches. So they go up and there's not much to grab for the fire to grab onto, unlike so many of our pine trees and spruce trees, which are just kindling all the way. So and especially because aspens grow in groves, when a giant wall of fire hits an aspen grove, it has so little to actually latch onto when those are healthy, wet trees. There are no branches, there's nothing. So the fire actually can dissipate significantly when it runs into an aspen grove. You should not plant aspens down here, though. We are too low elevation. They will die. My backyard is full of them. It's terrible. Okay, how's that poll look?
Just closed it, just under 200 responses. So it's a pretty even spread, I would say. 21% are concerned about how much work it might be, 14% about converting irrigation, 31% designing something on my own, 14% the upfront price, and then 20% just think that it is quite an intimidating process overall.
Fair. And it is, but you can do it. So the irrigation we're going to get into, the design is something Resource Central is involved in varying degrees. We would love to talk you through so much of it, but this is also we have a DIY and we have an LR, a lawn removal program. We will get into those. Ultimately, both of them are fairly DIY though. We're able to put this program together because it is budgeted. The landscapers and having somebody come through is where the wallet often takes a hit. But the design was intimidating to me too. We'll get into that a little bit, and I highly encourage just like a little bit at a time or not rushing into it. Um, but yeah, before I ramble about all of those, it is super fair that it's intimidating. We're glad that you're here. We're going to get through most of that. Okay, first things first, where and how to choose an area. If you are super into the idea of reducing your outdoor water usage, you really are not in love with grass, but you're really not sure what grass to remove, this is where I like to start people. The unused and non-functional turf, which is the stuff that you water to mow and then you mow to water, it's never used, nobody walks on it, your neighbor's dog poops on it all the time, that's a great spot to remove. The picture here as the backdrop is a really good example. This happens to be two neighbors who were both interested in the program who said, front lawn between our driveways, nobody uses that. So whether or not, I mean, if this was just one neighbor, it's still a very common area to remove. It was super cool that they both wanted to do it. So the beside the driveway is a really popular unused non-functional area. Tree strips between your sidewalk and the street is another very, very popular area. Areas that no dogs, no kids, no patios or people really use. That's what we're talking about with non-functional. So those areas, probably my number one choice. Anywhere that is very high water or very high maintenance. So if you have no trees and no canopy coverage and that part of the lawn just gets baked and takes twice as much water, get rid of it. If it is a high maintenance area because it is, the only spot that you have to move the extension cord to mow. I have an electric mower. Move the extension cord to mow, or it's on the outside of your fence, or it's just annoying. Get rid of it. Areas that are odd, like easements and aisles, again, those are usually non-functional. Areas that you just hate mowing. We have people call in, and their reason for removal is that they loathe mowing the lawn. They had to do it as a kid. They had to do it their whole life. They never want to see a lawnmower again. Great. Remove it all. If that is your hill, go for it. Most people are probably not like that though. Another big consideration, probably the most critical with planning, I would say, is your sprinkler zones. If you have an underground irrigation system, which most individuals we deal with have, that's a bold statement, but I think it's a very true statement. You want to make sure you understand thoroughly your sprinkler zones. We're going to get to that in another slide, but if zone 1 and 2 are right next to each other and you remove all of zone 1 grass and some of zone 2 grass, how is the zone 2 grass that you didn't remove going to get watered? Because you're going to have to change your watering plan in some way. So you're either going to be overwatering what you removed or underwatering what you didn't. So lock in your zones, make a plan for converting. And then ultimately, it's anywhere you want. It's hopefully, your idea, your plan, your passion. If you want to remove it and you feel strongly about it, do it. Another how that should definitely be considered early on in the process before you bite off more than you can chew is the budgets. And I make that plural because I think it applies to different portions of it. I think time, money, and effort are all things that need to be budgeted. If you have all of those things plentifully and you want to remove thousands of square feet, I am so happy for you. Most people, I really encourage to do 200 or 400 square feet at a time. Bite off what you can chew, do more next season, feel good, feel accomplished about what you have done, and then keep going. We're not going to save the earth this summer. But if we start and it goes well and we feel good and we can keep building upon it, then we are in great shape. So make sure you just don't think that you have to do 1,000 square feet at a time, I think is a very important thing I want to get through. Whether you are doing it mostly by yourself or whether you are hiring someone to do it is going to have huge implications on time and money. Some people are super DIY, so the effort is fine, or some people it's a family affair or your neighbors are involved. If it's just you, though, that's going to be a lot. And honestly, do you like doing it? Which means you can do it for longer. You can make this an ongoing project. You can start in March and finish in August, and your HOA is not barking down your neck or chirping in your ear. Or does it need to happen right now within 1 week because your summer is too busy otherwise? So really look at how much of all of these budgeted items you have and you want to spend when, and build off of that. Because you can keep going, you know? If you remove all your grass now, what do you have to look forward to next summer? Okay, making a plan based on all that stuff. So the outcomes are pretty obvious by now, hopefully. It's going to be no grass and, or I should say, no Kentucky bluegrass and either an alternative lawn like native grass mixes or dog tuff or perennials, which is definitely what we encourage more. So what plants, how much plant material are you getting, and where are you getting it from? When I say what plant material, we're talking native grasses in, clusters. We're talking perennials that flower big. We're talking perennials that don't really flower but are super hardy and reliable, like rabbit brush or, what the aesthetic you're going for is going to determine what plants you collect, obviously. The plant material is going to hugely impact the coverage of the area. That's what we mean there. Our program requires that when you remove lawn, 50% of the removed area be replaced with some sort of approved plant material. Because again, less water, not no water, soil health, ecosystems, all super important. So if you're removing, we're not going to do that. We're not going to try and do math live. If you're removing 50%, or if you're replacing with 50% plant material, that's going to be a much different design plan and outcome than if you're replacing with 90% plant material. So plan, I guess. And then where you're getting it from. If you're going with garden in a box, which we'll chirp later, that's going to be a great design coming with you. We have a plant by number situation. It comes with resources that are going to help you finish the project. Or if you're just going to your hardware store and picking out plants that pre-existing lists that you wrote down and found, you're going to get home and have to figure out the whole plant situation from there. The landscaping features are another important step. Are you putting a walkway in? Are you trying to get to your front door through this garden? Are you trying to put any sort of patio or sitting area in? Is the space going to be used for anything other than plants living there? Substrate is super, super important. I kind of wish I put a whole slide in here for this, but I didn't, and I'm kicking myself now. Substrate is a fancy word for mulch. Mulch is different than compost. Mulch is what we want to cover our surface area. It's what keeps the moisture down, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We want moisture down. We want weeds to be suppressed to a degree. We don't want exposed dirt. That's your mulch, that's your substrate. Compost is a term we refer to as more of a fertilizer, as what you put in your compost bin out back and it breaks down and it becomes nutrient dense and it's delicious for plant roots. I do not recommend covering your surface areas with compost. Using those at the base of plants, top notch. We want to put substrate down and mulch down because it will help keep the moisture down. It is often free and available through municipalities in Colorado. Again, Broomfield, there is free mulch pickup just down the street from me. As long as you're willing to bring your car and a couple trash cans, or maybe you know somebody with a pickup truck, you can get wood chips completely for free to help you with that. Rocks is a much, I don't want to say better option because that means so many things. It's a really, really good option for water because water will completely permeate down through rocks and will not come back up. Rock is often a bit more expensive, but it will last forever. Wood chips are going to break down over time. They will need replacement, long term or short term, depending on your aesthetic choices. They also often act like sponges. If you have a dense layer of wood chips, water is getting into it, but not likely through it. Rock, on the other hand, is permeation. We highly recommend squeegee, which is really, really tiny stuff. Again, it's not necessarily cheap, but if you do a couple 100 square feet at a time, or if maybe you start with wood chips and then next year the budget has room for that rock, you do that. Work with what you got in your budgets. Okay, important considerations as I ramble here and get completely off topic. Trees. This is something that every year becomes more and more clear to me. Trees need water, which seems like a very obvious statement. But if you have a tree and you remove the lawn around it and you water that lawn, that removed area, significantly less, that tree is also getting watered significantly less. Trees in older neighborhoods, or just not brand new neighborhoods, I guess, often do not have direct irrigation lines. They do directly benefit from the broad irrigation that is happening on your lawn. So when you're watering all of zone 2, the tree that's near there is just sitting beneath that grass going, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So when you remove that lawn, do not neglect the tree's needs after. There are a lot of folks who do not necessarily plan for that when we go do tree strips or the sidewalk easements, depending on what you call it. And they go, oh yeah, I'm so excited. I'm just going to do a drip line on this side and be done. And it's a tough realization that when we roll up and we remind them, okay, great, sounds good, your tree is still going to need quite a bit of water. Older trees have bigger, deeper roots, can reach further, take water from larger areas. But that might also mean that they've been relying on this consistent source of water for longer too. So it's not a don't remove lawn around trees, but if you do, make sure you still account for the water that they are going to need that you are removing from that situation. Access and utilities is another good one. Make sure your water meters and your water shutoffs stay accessible. Oh, excuse me. So in a lot of most cities and towns around here, I'm trying to think if there are any ones that stand out that don't, but the vast majority of Metro Denver, you will have either your shutoff or your water meter or both as little covered plates somewhere in your front lawn. You want to make sure that if that is the area you are doing, those stay accessible. So I recommend putting like a big rock right on top or something so that you can get to it if you need to, so that the city can get to it if they need to. Do not surround that whole area in plants that will need to be trampled if somebody has to shut off your water. Same thing with like condensing units, access to the gas meter on the side of the house. You want to make sure that there is access to things as plants grow in and fill in over the years. If you have a back gate, I'm trying to think of other big ones, but just general access. Make sure you do not block what shouldn't be blocked. And the irrigation plan. We'll get into sprinklers, but when we take applications through our program, we ask people what of the 3 main changes they're making, if it's going to be switching to hand watering, if it's going to be switching to a drip system, or if it's going to be maintaining the infrastructure they have and changing the schedule. So watering for less time or less frequently. Make sure you have that ahead of time so that when your plants are in and ready, you're not going, oh my, how do we now water them? Hand watering can be a great option for small areas. I don't recommend it for gigantic areas. It will take a lot of time. Okay, sprinklers. So if you are versed in sprinkler knowledge, happy. If you are not, this is the slide for you. We will start in the top left corner there. Ignore the orange boxes. This is just general sprinkler zones, zone or area on that picture. Oftentimes, they're numbered. In this case, they are lettered, but same thing. Zone 1, Area A, same thing. So your sprinkler works on a main feed of water coming in. It goes to a control box, which says, okay, A, go to Area A. Area A then becomes fully pressurized. All of the heads in that area come up. Area A gets watered. The control box goes, okay, great. Now go to Area B, which means the heads in Area A go back down. Area B gets fully charged. Those heads pop up, etc., etc., etc. It is not everything comes on at once. That is not enough pressure to make the system work. And each system or each area can generally have different times. So if we look at Area D, I should back up a little bit. We can have different times and different head capacities. So you can have one sprinkler head that sprays a little bit and one sprinkler head that sprays really big and far. So if you have a very complex system, that can be a very intimidating thing. If you are just doing one zone area, it is really, really manageable. But Area D, as you can see, has much wider spread. It will probably have longer watering times because of the area it's covering. Whereas Area E, itty bitty, heads are spraying way smaller areas, probably a much smaller clock too. If we assume that that's the south side of the house, though, we can also assume that it needs proportionally more water than Area C on the north side of the house, which is going to be shaded if we're staying in the northern hemisphere, and that's going to need less water. So all of these things are going to impact your watering schedules. Might be a little intimidating, but let's break it down to Area A now. The orange squares on exclusively the left side of the screen there, so I guess the orange rectangles, I picked those because it's a common design for people to want to do strips along their driveway. It's aesthetically cute. Plants, bring you home at the end of the day. But it is going to make your irrigation alterations very difficult. To take out a chunk of the sprinkler zone and then have to still water the rest of the area is going to make your life very difficult. So I would highly recommend either extending that Area A orange box to be wider and larger, and then trying to switch Area E a little bit to water what's remaining in Area A, or replace all of Area A. That to me looks like an unused or a non-functional area. Are there kids playing on the side of your garage? Are there dogs going over there? Or can we just make that our conservation impact area? The aesthetics and the conservation can conflict with each other a little bit there, but it's also how much effort you want to put in. It would be really easy to just do Area A. So sprinkler zones should be deeply considered when you're making that plan. The box in the back there is another common one I see. People like the rounding off or squaring off of things along the house. So you'd have the patio where it is, and then you'd put a garden beside the patio to enjoy. Again, that is going to be a tough spot if you're still trying to maintain Area C. So in that area, I would recommend changing out the two heads on the north side along the end of the house at the top to make sure that they are only spraying into area C, what remains there. You can cap the other two heads. I wonder if my mouse works. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you're going to cap these two heads at the bottom that are right next to the patio. And this would be a great area to hand water or to hook up an above ground system to a spigot with a small timer on it. That is a little bit helpful. That is a little bit frustrating to just have the answer be use your sprinkler systems. It's not to say that you can't create more complex systems as well, but it is challenging. The other photos on this are just the changing out of a head in the top right corner there. If you do switch to a drip system and you do have the simple drip conversion head, it is very, very easy to excavate around a sprinkler head. I highly recommend using a shop vac or a wet dry vac if you have it. It makes it super easy and quick. All you have to do is loosen the soil, suck the soil out, take the filter out of the vacuum first. But you're going to suck the soil out. All the soil is going to be right in the bucket for you when you're done. Makes really quick work. I do recommend excavating a little bit further below the connection of the head because when you unscrew it, if the line has been charged anytime recently, there will be likely water in it, which is going to gently bubble up, not like spray or anything like that. But you want that water to be able to overflow somewhere and not collect mud back into the connection. This picture beyond that is just kind of the infrastructure of a sprinkler if you're not familiar with it. It looks like a garden hose running below ground. It is about 8 inch, 10 inches below ground, depends. Your own house will vary. And then at each sprinkler head location, there's going to be either an L or a T, a plastic fixture that the head itself screws into. So by you removing a sprinkler head, the hose, the rest of the system, it's still all there in place underground. You do have to do something with where you've disconnected the sprinkler head, of course, but you can cap that in all different ways. You can put a conversion kit on it. We do have a pre-recorded seminar from last year that gets into sprinklers a little bit more. We have lots more sprinkler resources for you if you need after, but Sprinkler 101 is what I wanted to get people. Capping might be worth talking about really quick. The way you can cap a sprinkler head if you are not going to use it anymore, there are 3 different ways. You can do it way at the base where it is connected to the hose. That is a recommendation if you're not going to use that head or that zone ever again. It's going to get buried again. It's going to be down there. It's going to be really hard to find later. But if you're like, nope, never using it again, cap it at the hose. Otherwise, you can cap it at the pop head where the water is coming out of the picture in the top rightmost photo, where the water comes out, that little tiny piece can be capped, or the larger head itself can be capped. That's the part that recesses into the grass. That's the part that the fingers are on in the photo in the middle there. So you can cap it at 3 different ways. Hardware stores or Lowe's will know all about it. Okay, little more irrigation. Bear with me. This is a photo that somebody submitted to us, one of our participants. If you do participate in our programs or have in the past, please spam us with your photos. We love it. This one is a good example of, I would call this like a medium-sized project. These plants are spread out, which means that your watering plan should not be change the existing system and schedule. If you leave this as a spray situation like you had on your lawn, you're going to waste so much water. Look how much soil is here. Look how the plants are not clustered. Please change this to either hand watering or set up a drip system. With that, we're going to pretend they went with a drip system. The next slide is very busy. Don't get intimidated. Okay, so this one, I did a blue side and a purple side. We're going to start with the blue side. The sprinkler head itself is circled in the aqua color up there. The blue setup is going to be taking out, you're going to excavate the existing head, you're going to unscrew it, you're going to put it in your garage or bring it to some sort of donation center, and then you're going to screw in the drip conversion kit, which looks a lot like a normal sprinkler head. The top left corner is a full drip conversion setup, or I shouldn't say that because they come in all shapes and sizes, but that is a typical and common drip conversion setup. The sprinkler head itself, you can see, looks very similar to a typical sprinkler head. That's going to go in. The little piece that is in the bottom right corner, I think it kind of looks like a spider. It's a gray head with like 3 fingers on each side. I know 3 for 4. You're going to put that on top, and then you're going to run your hose, one hose off of each of those little spider legs with an emitter to the plant. The blue side is good for small projects. It uses a lot of hose and individual emitters. That's a lot of highway, if you will, to get to each stop. The picture on the bottom left there is a good illustration of it. That's the head and kind of the Medusa arms coming off of it going to each plant. That is one way to do it. If this was my lawn, I would do the purple side. So again, you're going to have a conversion head, but then you're going to have a T or an L joint coming off of that with a larger hose coming off of that, which is shown well in both of those purple pictures. The larger hose is kind of your highway to get to all of the plants. And then you're going to have a little tiny hose coming off of that to be an exit ramp to all of your individual plants. To do this, it's not hard. It's annoying. It's not hard. You're going to go to a hardware store. You're going to talk to them about what you need. They're going to give you the stuff. You're also going to do a lot of research on YouTube. And you're going to buy the big hose. You're going to puncture and stick the little hose into it with the equipment that the kit gives you. You're going to line your little hoses out to exactly where you want with the plants. The different drip emitter heads allow different amounts of water to come out. So you can have 1 gallon per hour, 2 gallons per hour, 3, and they're all color coded. You can set them up to be on little kickstands like we see in the bottom picture, or you can just lay them flat on the ground. The options are endless. It is probably new material for a lot of people, but it is not difficult. YouTube is your best friend. There are so many channels, there are so many videos that walk you through it step by step by step. We have some pretty great resources through Resource Central. We have a whole YouTube channel for Resource Central. Not playing favorites, but Denver Water also has a really great YouTube channel with arguably too many videos. You do have to sort through quite a bit, but there are so many great resources there. Another one, which will be in the slides, the resources that we give as a handout from this seminar. Not a promotion, we don't partner with anybody, but Drip Depot is another incredible YouTube channel. He walks you through every single part of everything you could imagine here. He talks about irrigating trees, he talks about irrigating perennials. Great stuff. Shop for different kits. Don't go to one store and say, okay, this is what they got to do, or this is what they have, I guess this is what I got to do. The options are out there. So make sure you either buy what you want or search for what you want. Don't settle for what they have. Above ground systems are really great. I personally really struggle not being able to fix things myself. So having a very large lawn and having a in-ground sprinkler system is very frustrating if something goes wrong. My system is from the 90s. I have a valve that broke last summer that I thought was fixed, but maybe is not fixed. And instead of continuing to try and fix an old system that I then have to pay to have blown out every summer, I'm going to an above ground system this year. I'm going to get a timer. I'm going to put it on my hose spigot. I'm going to get a pressure regulator, and I'm going to do it all myself and be able to fix it and manage it all myself. Aesthetically, less pleasing. As far as management and maintenance goes, much more my speed because I can do it myself. I can make changes myself. I can fix it myself. So if that interests you at all, above ground systems are a different jam. They are so, so, so great. You can use a lot of the same systems we have here with the drip lines, with the drip emitters, with the, design it any way you want. It's just that it's not hooked up to control valves and a timer in your garage, and it's going to look a little different, but don't write it off. And then if I haven't said it enough, make sure you know your sprinkler zones. Okay, one more slide and then we'll pause for any bigger questions that Kaylee hasn't been able to manage. If you're doing it yourself, disposal is a very large part of this. If you bring Resource Central in and we remove your lawn, we take the disposal with us. But before you just dive into this project, make sure you know what you're doing with sod if you are physically removing it. Long-term plans, again, this is just kind of going back to you don't have to do 1,000 square feet at a time. Bite off what you can chew, build upon it each year. Conservation can be a decade or lifetime journey. Hopefully, it is a pattern that you can keep following. Yeah, that works. Instead of a one-time thing to do for aesthetic reasons. And then lastly, HOAs. As of a couple years ago, Colorado passed a very lovely law. HOAs cannot prohibit you from making water-wise changes. They can interfere with your design. You will likely have to submit some sort of plan or design to your HOA if you are in an HOA, and they can put the kibosh on that. But if you go prepared with a design, that helps, and be ready to pivot if you have one. But they cannot stop you altogether. That is a question we get a lot. So, okay, before we dive into our program specifically, do we still have an audience or have they all fled?
No, we've got many, many. Maybe one general question, you might be going over it later, but could you potentially speak to seeding, just overseeding existing grass with a low water grass alternative or ground cover like clover, et cetera, et cetera?
Sure, a little bit. I say all of this with appreciation that y'all trust me and you're still here as my audience. I say none of this as a expert or horticulturist or person with a degree about plants. So, highly recommend if you're going to overseed what already exists or if you're going to slowly kind of introduce that and that's your plan. I love it. Make sure you are aerating before game day. Make sure that you're, make sure that you're aerating ideally a season before or months before to get nitrogen in that soil, to get everybody ready, to get roots loosened and, ready to accept new friends. And when you then do it, aerating can help then, but you want the work to be done before. When you do it, water a lot. It's again the nurturing, that initial establishment, that initial nurturing. You're going to have to put a lot of water in initially to get those guys happy before you can wean anybody off. I've had a lot of personal success with clover. I have heard a lot of success with other native grass and grass mixes and seeding. If you are in Denver, last year, I haven't checked again this year, but hopefully, fingers crossed, Denver gave out native seed mixes. So if you're in the municipality, definitely reach out to them and see if that's a program and you can get free seeds. Yeah, before I keep rambling, I think that's the actual useful information I have. Okay.
Cool. All right. Feel free to chug on. Yeah.
All right. So, why you should do it, how you should plan for it. Now's the part where I say why you should use us for it. Resource Central and the lawn replacement program specifically has two programs this year. The lawn replacement program altogether has been around for quite a few years now, and it's looked a little different each year, different iterations of it. So if this doesn't sound perfectly like what you know, might not be what you learned at first. So this year, the lawn removal service is going to be doing 425 square feet at $1 a square foot in most municipalities. There are a few, very few select who made their contracts with us, excuse me, a little different this year. So the price looks a little different for them, but you'll be able to see all that when our application opens in just a couple weeks. The program works by you signing up and agreeing to commit to replacing 50% of the removed lawn with new plant material that is Waterwise. We will roll up, we will cut the lawn out, we will put it in our trailer, we will drive it away and compost it. You are left with a beautiful blank slate, you're ready to go. Do it yourself is our other program option. This is where the discount that all of the water providers or partners that we have goes to garden kits instead of discounting our lawn removal. Because what I should have said is after the 425 square feet in the lawn removal service is used, the price goes up to $275 a square foot because the discount has been used entirely. So the discount for do it yourself goes completely toward garden in a box kits. Those kits are completely compensated if you are willing to remove the lawn yourself and then send us pictures proving that you have done so. You'll pick a garden pickup event, which is a specific city and location and date. So that'll probably command your removal schedule once you've picked your garden event. And yes, you just had to prove to us that the grass was removed. They're great programs. Qualifications for both of them include that your lawn is in good condition currently. I know it's February, so nobody's lawn is in good condition currently. We know that they're all dormant grass, but when you submit it, we do not accept already patches of dirt. We do not accept lawns that are already removed because the entire point of our program is water conservation. So we want to take areas that are being watered significantly and help you water them less. Not areas that are dead and are going to actually need more water now. With removal. So if you're going to hire us, can't wait to see you. Sign up on March 9th. If you're doing it yourself and you're going to be a DIY person, there are 3 main ways we recommend removal: sheet mulching, solarization, physical removal. I will tell you right now, I don't love solarization. It is an option, but I really, really recommend going 1 or 3. We will start with sheet mulching. This is awesome. I did this for probably 1,000 square feet of my lawn. I was fortunate to have a husband working at a brewery at the time. He was able to, I mean, he's still my husband, but the cardboard was very accessible and very free. So we were able to just collect that, lay it down everywhere, and then again, the mulch, the wood chips from City of Broomfield are free to residents. So we were able to collect all of that and we were able to cover a significant area, super budgeted. If you want to go this route, if you have these resources, what you're going to do is cut your lawn very, very, very short. You're going to try and kind of abuse that grass best you can before you smother it. Pull the weeds if you can, because weeds will fight through this sometimes. What you're going to do next is overlap the cardboard. Make sure that you don't have kind of cracks or seams because the grass will go, oh, great, I can grow here. Overlap it really well, moisten it to make sure it's nice and flat and packed down. And then you're going to layer it with all sorts of compost, soil, wood chips, whatever you got. You want to smother it. You want to weigh it down. You want to make sure that oxygen and sun are not getting through. What is on top of the cardboard is supposed to break down to a degree. So leaves and compost on this, if you have them, great. I would not go out and buy like nice, rich, lovely compost to do this. I would, in that case, use some sort of free wood chips or just free biomaterial, branches, leaf mixes, whatever you got. And you're going to water that too. Again, smother, pack it down, suffocate it, bury it. Over time, it's going to break down. You're going to want to replenish it, and then you're going to want to plant in probably several months. This is a very, very cost efficient way to do things. This is not the most time efficient way to do things. I will, however, also tell you that if you are extremely stubborn and impatient like me, what you can do is do the whole area sheet mulched, clear a little bit of mulch where you need it, cut the cardboard where you need it, dig that out physically. So it would be a kind of a mix of physical removal and sheet mulching. And now you have a spot to put your plants. Make sure that you kind of reinforce the hole you dug with a little bit of cardboard so that grass doesn't have ways to get through. But you can kind of, if you're like me and willing to have a blade of grass come through, you can kind of patchwork your sheet mulch. It is terrific for budget. It is terrific for just ease of implementation. There's no sod removal or disposal because it's just getting smothered, which means it's also going to be great for the soil health, everything breaking down. The worms are going to love it, your soil health, and just the microorganisms down there are going to be very happy with your decision. Challenges, however, though, again, overall timeline can be longer. If you do not have time to pull the weeds, or if you have significant weeds there, they will probably fight back. Steep slopes, it can be a challenge. You're probably going to have to either reinforce or create some sort of breaks if you're going up a hill. And then the water infiltration. If you're using lots of mulch and lots of wood chips to pack down to smother, that means that water is going to get into those wood chips, but not through and under those wood chips. So you can potentially dry out the soil that's underneath. Nature is going to take care of itself. If it's a wet season, you're going to be fine. If it's a dry season, you're going to be in a pickle either way. An awareness to have more than anything. My least favorite option, solarization. It is very similar to sheet mulching. You're going to cut your grass extremely low, kind of try and beat up that grass and abuse it before you cover it. Plastic sheet goes down. You want to make sure it is really snug around the edges. No water, no air is getting through. And then the purpose of the plastic is to bake the grass. You're not trying to smother it so much as you're trying to fry it. So this in the winter, not going to work. Sheet mulching in the winter, great. This is a summer thing. You want heat, you want solar radiation coming down and just zapping that stuff. The sheet is the timetable is tough because if it is not that hot, if it is not that sunny, it's not doing as much. So the timeline can vary a little bit there. And again, if conditions are just right, you can actually foster growth. So if it is just warm enough and just moist enough and you leave it on there for a couple weeks and then take it off, the grass is going to go, thank you so much for the day in the greenhouse or the day at the spa, because you basically just insulated it and kept it moist for that long. So this is a very condition dependent route. Again, very easy to implement, super cost effective, very little labor, no disposal, no removal issues. Colorado sun, when it is on, but it's also very slow. It is the introduction of plastics into the environment, which is never great. For large lawns, it is very aesthetically unpleasing, probably not your HOA's favorite resident if you go this route. And you can also, while you might be able to fry the grass if conditions are right, you may also then be frying the microorganisms underneath. So this one's just kind of it's a Goldilocks method, if you will. And then last, my favorite is physical removal. Favorite with a big asterisk on it, because if you have a sod cutter or 100 people to help you, you're golden. If you're doing physical removal with a shovel or hand tools by yourself, it is not fun. That is how I started my journey. I would go out for an hour after work every day, and I was basically shoveling a checkerboard little by little. I would pry it up, let it dry out, shovel it the next day. It takes forever. It is extremely laborious. It is not fun. You still have disposal to deal with. If that is what you want to do, you inspire me. The other option is a sod cutter. Again, Resource Central is a great option for that. You have, if you're in Metro Denver, Metro Boulder, if you're in a lot of the Front Range in Colorado, you likely have a discount available to you for this removal. It will take care of everything. We will leave you ready to roll. Sod cutters can also be rented. I think Home Depot has them, but it's been a minute. The transportation of them and getting them to your house is quite the task. They are extremely heavy and they are quite cumbersome to deal with. So if you have the means, that is an affordable option, but not necessarily a physically easy option. The perks, they're on the next slide too, but I guess I put them here too. It's going to get all of your roots. It's going to take care of most weeds. Giant asterisk on bind vine. I don't want to talk about it. But it's going to get what you need done really quick, really easily. Is there anything else on here? Yeah, healthy grass is going to make hard work for physical labor, but much easier work for a sod cutter. If you have extremely dry conditions, a sod cutter is not going to like that either, but we'll save that. Super fast, super clean lines for the sake of design. If you have a interesting design you're going for, this can, we can cut your name in the grass. Or you can if you rent a sod cutter. But this is a really great option for getting around weird curves, or if you're putting a decorative walkway or patio or something in, this is probably the route to go. Roots and regrowth are going to be really, really hindered by this method, so long as you also get substrate down quickly. I do not recommend removing your grass and leaving it like you see in that photo for more than a few days, because that is just prime pickings for weeds and asking for trouble. Challenges, the price can be a problem if you go really, really high in square footage with our services, at least. Renting or transporting the sod cutter otherwise can be a challenge. Again, shoveling and manual removal is wholesomely a challenge. And disposal if you're doing it yourself. If you remove 500 square feet of sod with a sod cutter and then have no plan for it, it's heavy, it's messy, it's tricky. Okay, that's removal. Almost through here. Any questions based on methods or design before I get into finishing touches with, where we want to send you next to embark on this journey?
We got a couple of substrate questions. Obviously, we've talked about mulch and rocks. Do you want to speak quickly to like squeegee or rubber mulch or expanded shale?
Yeah. So squeegee is, I usually put that into the rock pool personally. For those less familiar, squeegee is basically pebbles. It is terrific for plant mobility. It's terrific for just general substrate and keeping moisture down. I really like rocks because of the permeation. Water cannot get absorbed in rocks. If you have, 6 inches of rocks as your substrate, then yeah, it's going to be tough for water to get down there. But if you just have a nice 2, 3 inch layer, a heavy rain, all the snow melt, if we ever get any, is going to get through there just fine. Wood chips, like I said, often act as a sponge, but if you have targeted watering, either hand watering or drip systems, then that is not going to be as much of a problem. Rubber mulch is not my favorite just because, again, it is inorganic. It's introducing, um, it's not plastic into the environment, but processed rubber in Colorado. I've never seen a rubber tree in Colorado. So the more natural we can stay, the better. That also reminds me of weed tarp, which I did not talk about at all here. We do not recommend weed tarp at all. It is generally made of plastic. There is two types I see the most. One is just pretty much straight up plastic sheeting that unrolls. It looks like garbage, like thinner garbage bags. And then the other is kind of a woven fabric. And a lot of people go, oh, but it's fabric. Most fabric is plastic these days, ultimately. T-shirts aren't even cotton, they're poly blends, so that is plastic. It will prohibit water from getting into the soil, even more than wood chips will. It is going to prohibit healthy soil. It is going to prohibit any sort of microorganisms thriving down there. It is also hugely going to prohibit your plant spreading. Most of the time, people will lay weed tarp down and then they will cut, I don't know, dinner plate size holes in it and then put the plant right in there and then go, great, this is going to be amazing. And for the first year, it looks great. You don't have a single weed. And then the second year comes around and you go, my plants aren't really filling in. And then the third year comes around and your plants are not filling in because you have put a noose around their neck. They need to be able to spread. The native grasses especially will, again, no degree in plants here, but a lot of these plants have almost branches that grow out, and the grasses will grow in this viney way where they're trying to spread up, but also out from the bottom. And if they are consistently blocked by weed tarp, you're just prohibiting yourself from having this beautiful, expansive garden. So the negatives for me, for us, far outweigh the positives. If you do have weed concerns, vinegar is a great natural option. There are certain organic mixes that can work well. I've heard soap like Bronner's or natural options can be good, but ultimately it's picking them out for us. Unless it's bindweed, then sell your house. But okay, that was a little substrate, a little more rambling. Cool. Sounds good. Let's get through some resources then. This is YouTube. It's the best. It's 2026. The internet can be our friend. The Resource Central YouTube channel page, oh, not even a millennial, has all of our old seminars. It has some great how-to videos. It is updated regularly. There is stuff in there from ancient times, but there's a lot of really good current stuff in there. You can just Google YouTube Resource Central, or if you're YouTube savvy, this is our channel. All our seminars, it's all there. It's good stuff. There's stuff from all of last year's seminars. So if you're like, this topic I love, I want to learn more about it, we have these seminars from last year. Waterwise Yards is another terrific resource. This is a partnership website that we have. It's waterwiseyards.org. All of these resources will be given to you. Put down your pen. This is a great spot where people submit the projects they have completed. A few of these are getting a little outdated. It's been a minute, but it's still a terrific pool of what participants have chosen to send back to us to say, I did this. I was able to do this. We got this. So it's going to be your inspiration hub. You're going to navigate to a page that's very dense with all sorts of projects in all sorts of areas. And then you can filter, should you choose, by what your skill set is, what project size you got, Location is somewhat useful, but the sun exposure, that's a very important part of purchasing our garden in a box kits. We sell them with a dependency on sun. So if you're on the north or south side of the house there, that's something you want to consider. Browse through these. They're amazing. Talk to your neighbors if you've seen one of these gardens in their house. And it'll give you some sort of breakdown like this. Like I said, some of these are a bit outdated. 2014 feels like yesterday, but it wasn't. Also, take these with a grain of salt. These are participant submitted information packets, if you will. So this person thinks their skill level is intermediate. If you look at this and go, oh God, that's fine. Do what you can. Reach out to us for help. Don't think you have to do what somebody else did. More resources on Waterwise Yards. This page is going to be a work in progress soon. Like I said, it's a collaborative effort, kind of a partnership website. So we're trying to make sure it stays up to date, that when we get new information and new resources that we love, we are getting them here. So if this looks different in a couple months, that's why. Our other programs are another incredible resource. Garden in a Box and Slow the Flow are two of our other water programs. You are currently in a Waterwise Yard Seminar, which is another program. But Garden in a Box kits, if you don't know, they are curated, mapped, ready to go. Excuse me. Designed garden kits that you can purchase through our website and you're ready to go. So if you're like, I want plants, I want native plants, but I'm really intimidated and the lists are so long and I don't know what to pick, we've picked them for you. They're here. You can pick them based on color or how many flowers versus grasses, or if you want something more shrubbery-like, it's all there and it's all listed. Slow the Flow is free. It's amazing. People will come to your house, do a full evaluation of your sprinkler system, find you ways to improve your efficiency. If you have a leak, they're going to find a leak. If you have a break, they're going to find a break. They are not technicians who do repairs of any sort, but they are going to print you out a dense, deeply detailed report of, did you know this about your sprinkler system? And did you know that you could water on this schedule and save 40%? Again, free service. Highly, highly recommend signing up for them. Garden in a Box, their application opens March 11th, I believe. Slow the Flow, you can sign up year round. The program will become active again in June. And then there's materials reuse. If you have never been to Resource Central in Boulder, please come up and see us. We have a full campus with a materials reuse store. We are collecting everything from refrigerators to vacuums to windows and doors to landscaping materials. Flagstone and railroad ties and fences and decorative rock. It's all there. It is a donation-based service, so what we have on any given day can vary, but please come up and check it out. Please give us a call, ask what we might have, and use these other resources, because lawn removal is one thing, but there's other parts of your project too. Okay, I did it! I nailed it, guys! 129. The next slides are just the resources that we want to send you home with. You will get copies of those. You will get copies of all these slides. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to us.
Yes, I was going to say other questions. We have customer service phone calls and email addresses for gardens, lawns, Slow the Flow. So tried to be on top of questions here, but additional questions, direct them to our respective programs. Wanted to thank Jess so much for her presentation today. I hope you guys all learned as much as I did and feel empowered to start converting your lawn to be more water wise. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Thanks again, Jess.